the year 1914. A shot rings out in Sarajevo, echoing through the courts of Europe and igniting a conflict that would engulf the world. The Great War, as it was known then, pitted nation against nation in a brutal struggle for dominance. From the trenches of the Western Front to the plains of the East, millions of soldiers clashed in a maelstrom of artillery fire, poison gas and machine gun fire. The statistics are staggering. Over 4 years of conflict, an estimated 15 to 22 million people lost their lives. Empires crumbled and the map of Europe was redrawn in blood. The world watched in horror as a generation of young men was decimated, leaving behind a landscape scarred by war and a legacy of grief. The world yearned for peace, but the path to achieving it would be fraught with difficulty. The reasons behind the war were complex, a tangled web of alliances, imperial ambitions and nationalistic fervor. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne by a Serbian nationalist, was the spark that lit the powder keg. Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, which was seen by many as unjustly harsh. When Serbia failed to meet all of the demands, the gears of war were set in motion. By 1918, after years of brutal fighting, the tide of war had begun to turn. Exhaustion gripped all sides, and the hope of a decisive victory seemed increasingly distant. The entry of the United States into the war on the side of the Allies in 1917 had tipped the balance of power, and Germany, facing internal unrest and dwindling resources, was forced to seek an end to the fighting. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, an armistice came into effect, silencing the guns that had roared for over 4 years. The world celebrated the end of hostilities, but the armistice was merely a ceasefire, a pause in the fighting to allow for negotiations to begin. The true challenge lay ahead, forging a lasting peace from the ashes of war. The armistice was a moment of both celebration and trepidation. Relief washed over war-torn nations as the bloodshed finally came to an end. Yet beneath the surface of jubilation lay the daunting task of rebuilding shattered lives and nations. The world held its breath, hoping that the leaders gathering in Paris could secure a lasting peace. In January 1919, representatives from over 30 nations convened in Paris to hammer out the terms of peace. Dominating the proceedings were the Big Four: Woodrow Wilson of the United States, David Lloyd George of Great Britain, Georges Clemenceau of France, and Vittorio Orlando of Italy. Each leader arrived with their own agendas and priorities, shaped by the experiences of their nations during the war. Wilson, an idealist, championed a vision of collective security and self-determination for all nations, embodied in his 14 points. Lloyd George, pragmatic and focused on British interests, sought to secure Germany's colonies and rebuild British power. Clemenceau, known as the Tiger, was determined to punish Germany and ensure French security, driven by the devastation inflicted upon his nation during the war. Orlando, representing a nation eager for territorial gains, pushed for Italian expansion in the Adriatic. The negotiations were complex and often heated, marked by compromises and concessions. The task before them was monumental: to redraw the map of Europe, address the grievances of the victors, and establish a new world order that would prevent another such conflict. The treaty that emerged from these negotiations, the Treaty of Versailles, would be one of the most consequential documents in history, shaping the course of the 20th century and beyond. Gap 3S. Amidst the intense negotiations and the drafting of the Treaty of Versailles, a significant idea emerged from the discussions: the creation of the League of Nations. This international organization was the brainchild of President Woodrow Wilson, who fervently believed that a global body could prevent future wars through dialogue and collective security. The League's primary aims were to promote disarmament, prevent war through collective security, and settle international disputes through negotiation and arbitration. The League of Nations was to be headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, symbolizing neutrality and peace. It was envisioned as a platform where nations, regardless of size or power, could voice their concerns and work collaboratively to maintain global stability. The Covenant of the League of Nations was included as part of the Treaty of Versailles, binding member states to a commitment of mutual cooperation and peaceful resolution of conflicts. However, the League faced significant challenges from the outset. Notably, the United States, despite Wilson's advocacy, never joined due to opposition in Congress. This absence of one of the world's most powerful nations weakened the League's authority and effectiveness. Additionally, the League struggled to enforce its resolutions, relying on the cooperation of member states, which was not always forthcoming. Despite its shortcomings, the League of Nations represented a pioneering effort in international diplomacy and collective security. It laid the groundwork for future international organizations and highlighted the importance of global cooperation in maintaining peace. The lessons learned from the League's successes and failures would be instrumental in shaping its successor, the United Nations, after the Second World War. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful videos on history and other fascinating topics. The Treaty of Versailles, signed on June 28, 1919 in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, was intended to be the cornerstone of a new, lasting peace. Yet, from its inception, it was a treaty of contention. The terms imposed on Germany were harsh and punitive, demanding significant territorial losses, military restrictions, and reparations payments. Many Germans viewed the treaty as a diktat, an imposed settlement that humiliated their nation. The economic strain and national humiliation it caused would fuel resentment and instability in the years to come. While the treaty aimed to prevent future conflicts, it also sowed the seeds of discord that would eventually lead to World War II. The Treaty of Versailles stands as a testament to the complexities of peacemaking and the challenges of addressing the aftermath of a global conflict. It remains a subject of debate among historians, reflecting on the difficulties of balancing justice, retribution, and reconciliation in the quest for a lasting peace. The lessons learned from the League's successes and failures would be instrumental in shaping its successor, the United Nations, after the Second World War. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful videos on history and other fascinating topics. Hit the bell icon to stay updated.